Welcome back to the Bearded Butcher's YouTube channel. I've got a really cool video for you today. This is gonna be pork shoulder versus a deer shoulder. So I have an Ohio white-tailed doe hanging right here in our cooler. We're gonna take this pork shoulder, we're gonna season it. I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna cut off a deer shoulder. We're gonna put these on the Yoder smoker side by side, and we're gonna compare pulled venison versus pulled pork. Check it out. We have a pork butt in a pan. Now we need to get a deer shoulder in a pan. So the first thing we want to do is we're just going to cut a portion of that neck off of there. We don't want to leave that whole neck on there. Now the next step is going to be splitting this deer shoulder in half. Normally I would just use my bandsaw, but I'm just going to use a hand saw today. So we are literally just going to take this whole deer shoulder, pretty much as it is, and we're just going to take this whole deer shoulder and set it in our pan. So I decided that I'm going to take just a little bit of the end of this hock off so it fits down in my pan. Plus, if I do that, it'll be comparable in weight to the pork shoulder, so that'll be perfect. So the pork shoulder weighs 7.25, and I took a tear on the scale with the take in account for the pan, and we're at 8.40, so close enough in weight. And we're just going to get these seasoned. We're going to do some original Bearded Butcher Blend seasoning and some black Bearded Butcher Blend seasoning, and then we're going to get these on the Yoder smoker. I'm going to start with putting just a little bit of olive oil on this deer shoulder because I want that seasoning to stick to it. So we'll start with that. Pork shoulder, it'll be fine. It doesn't need any olive oil. So it's our big shaker of original Bearded Butcher seasoning. We're going to go in with a nice coat of the original. And we're going to get this liberally coated on all sides with original. We're going to do the same thing to the pork. So this still has the blade bone in it. They both are bone in. So go in with the original first and then the black. Now for a blessing of Bearded Butcher black seasoning. This is going to give it that nice bark when it smokes. So we're just going to do like a standard pork butt smoke on this, and we're going to do probably 225 until we hit an internal of about 165, and then we'll wrap, maybe spritzing throughout the cook. So there's the black seasoning. It's a big shaker of Bearded Butcher Blend black seasoning. It has that caramel, molasses, and coffee in there. It's a really good topical use for when you are barbecuing or smoking long, low, and slow. Just makes that really, really nice bark. So a liberal coating. This video I'm excited about. I've always wondered, I've never smoked a deer shoulder whole like that. And we had the perfect sized deer paired with a nice pork roast. So all seasoned up. Next stop, we're heading to the Yoder smoker. Yeah, it's the next morning. She's a chilly one, Scott. Snow's falling. We've got the Yoder smoker lit. Might be a little dark in here, but kind of filled up with smoke. So the Yoder's lit. I've got it set at 250 degrees. We're gonna keep this pretty simple. The deer roast and the pork roast are staying in the pans. One thing I am gonna do is I'm gonna add some bone broth to this deer roast because I'm a little bit concerned about it drying out because it doesn't have much fat. So a little bit of bone broth in there. Grab our probes. We're gonna probe these in what we think is the thickest portion of these roasts. Keeping in mind that that bone's in there, so I don't want to hit that bone. There we go. Did you cold plunge this morning, Scott? Where'd he go? Man.
What's a cold plunge?
Scott and I have been cold plunging for a couple years, and this morning I got my run in and then I cold plunged, and it was brutal. My skin was like burning. I couldn't feel my toes.
First rule of cold plunging is you don't talk about cold plunging.
Yeah. All right, so we're set. Probes are in. Pork butt on this side. Deer shoulder on this side. We are simply just going to let these roll until they hit probably about 165 internal. We're going to throw the foil on the top of these pans, and then we're going to let them roll to probably somewhere around 200 or just above. Let them rest. We're going to have some pulled meats, and we're going to compare venison to pork. So shut the lid. We're going to go get some work done in the shop, and we'll check back. We're packing for a trip to our hunting cabin. Anybody that knows us and knows the Bearded Butcher brand knows that we absolutely love to spend time in the outdoors with family, especially at our hunting property in southern Ohio. So when we pack, I can guarantee we're gonna take some Bearded Butcher snacks with us, whether it's some of our original beef jerky, one of the 4 flavors of beef sticks that we offer, original hot honey or jalapeno and cheddar, some summer sausage, cut that, eat it with some crackers and cheese around the wood stove. That's what's going in my bag when I head to our property. So whether you're hiking, hunting, fishing, camping, go check out beardedbutchers.com and grab some of our snacks to take with you on your next adventure. Wouldn't be a YouTube video without a tractor in the background. Hey, he's feeding bison, so we're not gonna give him a hard time. It's time to check in. We're 5 hours in. We started this at 7:30 this morning. It's now 12:30. So I do want to mention that I did come out here and I switched these 2 pans, so the deer roast was more over the fire pot. So the fire pot's down here at this end of the smoker. The grill's been set at 250, but something that's really interesting is this pork butt has already hit 170 degrees internal, and the deer roast right now is at 143. So we're 30-degree difference on these two. So I found that very, very interesting. So the deer roast weighs about a pound more, and it's thinner in volume. However, it's about 30 degrees less in temperature. So I thought that was pretty interesting statistics on that. So we're gonna go ahead and get the pork roast wrapped. I'm gonna put a little bit more bone broth over top of the deer roast. We don't want it to dry out. Now that that's done, man, just get a look at that, Spencer.
That looks so good.
Wow.
The color on that already.
That looks fantastic. So now that I've done that, I am gonna bump this grill up to 275. So we're gonna go up to 275, and we're gonna keep an eye on that the deer roast, and then once it hits 165, 170, we'll go ahead and get it wrapped, and then we're gonna finish these off. Six and a half hours in, I looked at my probes. We are still running 30 degrees difference between these two roasts. It's time to wrap the deer roast now. The pork roast, it's in the mid 190s. The deer roast is just almost 170 internal temp. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap the deer roast, and then we're gonna finish these off. Man, that's looking real good. Just a little bit more bone broth on there before I wrap it, because I want to keep this deer from drying out. The pork, I didn't have to do that with the pork because obviously the fat content on that roast, that's going to keep it nice and juicy. But the deer, I was just really worried about it drying out, so that's why I keep hitting it with the bone broth. So we're going to keep it pretty simple. Put some foil over top of this pan. Get it sealed up nice. That bone broth in there is just gonna sit and steam that deer roast. Now they're both wrapped. As soon as the pork roast finished at just over 200 degrees, we're gonna get it in the Yeti, and then we're gonna let it rest while the deer roast finishes off. And once that's done, we'll get that into our cooler. We'll let them both rest, and then we'll shred them. Make some sandwiches. So check back here in a few minutes when the when the pork roast hits just over 200 degrees. We're 9 hours in. Something really interesting happened. So, and I know it has to do with the fat in the deer roast, but the deer roast was lagging 30 degrees behind the last time I checked in. We wrapped it. It actually caught up with the pork roast. Now these two are basically neck and neck in temperature, and we're gonna reveal them. So there's the pork roast. That looks amazing. You can tell that one's probe tender. It's done just over 200 degrees. The deer roast, man, doesn't that look good? Same thing, probe tender, just over 200 degrees. Got that blade bone protruding out of there. So the next step, we've got our Yeti cooler. So what we're gonna do, got to get the probes out of these. So we're going to pull our probes, and then we're simply just going to put these in the cooler, and we're going to let these rest about an hour. So put them in the cooler, snap the lid, and let them rest. So in with the pork roast first. Then in with the deer roast. I'm gonna cover these with a couple towels inside this cooler. Try to insulate them the best we can. I know the Yeti's gonna do a fine job, but I'm also trying to keep the inside of the cooler clean. So now, snap the lid, shut off our Yoder smoker. See you back in an hour. We started in the dark, and we're finishing in the dark. It's been about an hour that these roasts have been sitting in this Yeti cooler. It's time to get them in to the processing floor where it all began, and we're gonna see how they pull apart and do a taste test. Man, that smells good, that heat. There's a lot of heat trapped in there. That's the deer roast. This is the pork roast. Okay.
Which one are you gonna unveil first?
I'm mostly curious about the deer roast, so we're gonna unveil that one first. Oh man, this is a first for me. Smoked deer roast. That's the whole thing. You can see the neck, the vertebrae on there, the shoulder blade, the shank, the whole bit. So that's that whole deer shoulder. Now let's go over here, and that's that whole, well, I should say, that's a portion of the pork shoulder. So this is the shoulder butt, that blade portion. I can tell you that one's gonna pull really, really nice. This one, I expect it to be a little bit tighter because it's leaner, and I did put that bone broth in there. But the next step is just to start pulling, getting all the bones removed, and then do a taste test. All right, let's see how we did. Oh man, that's gonna be hot on my fingies. Look how that blade bone pulled out of there.
That's pretty impressive for venison.
That's pretty impressive. That's pretty cool. Now let's just work at getting all the other bones removed. So get all the bones out. See, these just pull right out of there. Those are cleaned up real nice. There's gonna be that yellow cord, that patty whack that we talk about. That's gonna be in there. Get that out of there. I have to save some of these little scraps for our pooches. I'm gonna love those. I don't want to leave any bones in this shredded venison. I want to pick through here and get this fat out too. But yeah, that's gonna shred up and look. That's gonna taste awesome, and that's gonna look awesome too. Because look at that bark on there. All right, so I'm just gonna keep shredding, and then we'll go to the pork.
Yummy.
Someone showed up for the party.
Finally. Looks good. Smells good.
Just finishing up on this deer shoulder, and you'll notice a little trick. I put some cotton gloves on underneath these latex because my hands were burning. So we're getting close to having this all shredded up nicely. Just working my way through here and removing any unwanted things that obviously we don't want in our sandwich, but for the most part, and that's pulling up real nice. Pork shoulder, or excuse me, deer shoulder, smoked deer shoulder, that's a first for me. I've done a lot of pork shoulders, but pretty darn happy with the results. I think that's gonna make a wonderful sandwich. Took me a little bit more time on this deer shoulder because obviously you have those tendons in that shank and things like that, but we're looking real good. So now that's done, we want to come over here and we're going to do the pork. Whoa, look at that. So the pork obviously pulls a lot easier. We kind of knew that was going to happen because that has that fat in there, and pork butt is just arguably hard to beat when it comes to smoking, because if it wasn't so easy, it wouldn't be so popular. So, but yeah, look how quickly that shredded. But still, I mean, if you compare these two, and you wanted to do a pulled venison shoulder, I absolutely think you can, by all means. Now it's time to try some and build some sandwiches. All right, Scott, I've had plenty of pulled pork in my life. Have you ever had pulled venison like this? Ever? So you can do the honors, get yourself a little taste test. We're gonna taste it plain, obviously it's been seasoned, and then we're gonna taste the pork, and then we're gonna build a couple sandwiches. So dig in, get yourself some pieces. So this is smoked deer shoulder.
Delicious. Tastes like roast. Like as far as like the first flavor you get is obviously the smoke, but then behind that you just get like good meat, good roast. If I was cooking a roast, beef roast, bison roast,
If you'd have
whatever,
done
it
it-
doesn't have any wild gamey taste at all.
If you'd have done it in your crock pot, I mean, that's what you'd have, is shredded shredded roast, but
Except you wouldn't have the smoke flavor.
on the Yoder you get the nice smoke flavor. So first bite, I think it was great.
Delicious.
Go in for that pork shoulder bite. Got some on there.
Classic smoked pork, but can't beat it.
Obviously, you can't deny that it's juicier because venison, I mean, it's deer meat. So the next step is I'm gonna do one of these deals, and I don't expect you to eat 2 entire sandwiches because I know our wives probably have dinner
Wonder
made
what
for
you
us
were
at
gonna
home.
eat. Thought these 2 were for me.
So I'm just gonna make a nice little blessing of venison. You've got the right idea. I was gonna do the same thing.
I was gonna do this for both of them if you're cool with that.
Yep. Just a little bit of BBQ on there. A brioche bun. Barbecued venison. Pickles on it.
I went right through that pickle. That's top notch and tender too. No
Wow.
issues chewing that. Tastes phenomenal.
You cook that up for a party, make some sandwiches, big game's coming up. My goodness.
Burn a few pellets, season it with Bearded Butcher.
Isn't that good?
Wild game out of the woods, so I mean, only thing you have is your time and equipment invested in getting it to that point.
All right, it wouldn't be a comparison if we did do a little bit of each. I know the pork's gonna be a easier bite, and that's to be expected.
Yeah, but I'm not at all. It's not hateful.
No.
Not even a little bit hateful.
Not even a little bit.
As tender as that is. And you know, some people just don't eat pork.
I personally don't eat a ton
So
of
if we were
pork,
doing
so-
like a calorie comparison, that would come out way ahead. As far as fewer calories, higher protein, plus you just stinking cool when you harvest it yourself.
which I shot that one, now I'm eating it.
That's a good Sammy. Classic summer barbecue.
Pulled pork, pulled venison, it's fantastic.
Great job.
Been thinking about doing this video for a while. Deer shoulder versus a pork butt. Fun one. There's a ton more content we plan on doing. This is just another addition to the Bearded Butcher's YouTube channel. I know you like the sandwiches, at least you said you did. I know I like the sandwiches. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching the video. Hopefully you go out, take that whole deer shoulder, make yourself some pulled venison, make a pork butt. A lot of people know how to do that. Not many people maybe do it this way. We thought it'd be a cool comparison. So, hopefully you enjoyed watching. Until next time, see ya.